Hello, welcome to Manifestation Mondays. I have two screens up. I have YouTube here and I have Instagram here, and I'm trying to squeeze them together so it doesn't look as odd as possible. Let's see. Does that work? No, it doesn't work. Okay, we're just going to get started. Hello. I'm going to go ahead and get started just because I'm going to save this as always for an IGTV, and I will be saving it on YouTube as well. But what I'm going to be talking about today is really important. It's 3 manifestation blocks, mental blocks that you might not even be aware of when it comes to manifesting your dreams. I have my notes here, so I'm prepared to give you guys tons of value. And the reason I did this because a lot of people are, at the beginning of the year, you've set your goals, you have your vision board, you're doing what you can to manifest, and you may not even know that you have some of these blocks that are getting in the way of you manifesting or making it take longer, putting you on pause. So I wanted to kind of give an overview on what it is, what those things are that can really block you from manifesting your blessings. So again, excuse my breathing. I'm 8 months pregnant, so my lungs are compressed. But so manifestation is 100% about our mindset. So when we have these mental blocks, it can really hold up the process of us attracting our dreams, whether we know it or not. So first, I want to say be sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel because on Thursday I'm releasing a video on how to overcome these blocks. Today I'm teaching you what they are and how they affect your manifestation process. And Thursday in my YouTube video, I'm going to be going over how to overcome these blocks. So be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tiffany Shelton. It's linked in my bio if you're here with me on Instagram. So I'm just going to jump right in. First, to understand these blocks, you have to understand how manifestation works. So I want to give you a quick overview, a quick metaphor of the flow of abundance. So if you imagine manifesting is like flowing with the flow of your abundance, that's going to help us understand what kind of gets in our way as we flow down that river. So manifesting is kind of like flowing down a river of abundance, and you want to imagine going downstream, right? Because going downstream is what's easiest. Going downstream is what it's just you're going with the organic flow of the river, versus if we're going upstream, we're kind of fighting our way up and it's actually harder. We want to flow with our abundance down the stream of manifesting, and these are some of kind of the things that get in the way if we use that metaphor. And manifesting are some of the obstacles we may come into as we're flowing down that river. Okay. So, like I said, I'm just going to get started today. We're talking about the 3 manifestation blocks you might not even be aware of that are blocking your best blessings. These are mental manifestation blocks. Okay, so the first one is resistance. And if we're using that metaphor of flowing down the river of abundance, we can imagine resistance is like getting stuck in a hole. Let's say you're flowing down that river and you just kind of bloop, get stuck in a hole, you're no longer flowing down. So resistance is any negative emotion that we fall into that stops us from manifesting. So resistance is just about any negative emotion. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually signals from our inner spirit telling us either something that we're thinking or that we're doing is not in alignment with our true selves, is not in alignment with what we're trying to manifest. So we're kind of stuck down in a hole as we're flowing down that abundance when we experience this negative emotion. So this could be hopelessness, this could be sadness, this could be anxiety. When we are feeling negative emotions, we are negatively creating. It's like we're attracting more of that. So with the law of attraction, like attracts like. And so when you're feeling these negative emotions, you're attracting that into your life. And then it's not a play to get like caught up of like, oh, I can never feel these things. Instead, it's more about how can you start to notice these emotions, tap into the messages and the lessons that they're trying to send you and get back on course and realign with what it is that you're trying to manifest. Again, on Thursday, I'll be going over exactly how to do that in my YouTube video. That is going to be a little bit more in depth than what I can do here on this live. So that's the first one. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Negative emotions we feel when we're stuck, they're direct signals from our inner spirit that we're not in the flow of abundance. It could be self-doubt, it could be fear, it could be depression, anxiety, burnout, all these things. That's the first mental block of blocking your blessing. Okay. The second, hello, Anastasia. So the second mental block, manifestation block that you might not be aware of is called holding patterns. So we're going to go back to that metaphor of flowing down with our abundance. Resistance is kind of when we get stuck in a hole. Holding pattern is when we dig deeper into that hole. So if you think about the cycle of depression. So that's more than just feeling a negative emotion of sadness. You're getting into that cycle of negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative actions, and you're digging yourself a deeper hole into resisting or not flowing with your abundance. So that's the second mental block, is when we get into these holding patterns, which is when we dig deeper into these negative emotions and we're feeling them on a more consistent, persistent basis. So it's like one day you might not be feeling good, and instead of being able to pivot for some reason, you flow down the cycle of depression. So maybe you don't get out of bed or you don't wash your hair. Then you feel worse because you're not doing what's in alignment with feeling good, and then you do even less and you feel even worse. So it's like this negative spiral down. That's what you would call a holding pattern. So it's more than just feeling resistance or a negative emotion. It's when we dig deeper, like when we go from being like tired at work to being burned out or having compassion fatigue, or it's just a more persistent type of mental block than just feeling any type of negative emotion. It's so funny because I have a filter here and I don't have a filter here. So it's like a little jarring when I look at the two. But if you want to see what I'm really looking like without the filter, watch this on YouTube. But anyway, so if you're just joining us today, I am talking about manifestation blocks, things that get in the way of us manifesting or slow us down. So manifesting is all about our mindset. So these are mental blocks that kind of slow us down. The first one was resistance. That's that anytime we feel negative emotion, it's a signal from our spirit that we're a little bit off track with what we're trying to manifest. It's an opportunity to tune in and to pivot. The second mental block is holding patterns. And that's when we kind of dig deeper. As we're flowing down the river of abundance, we not only get stuck with that resistance, but the holding pattern kind of brings us even deeper down into that. So those are the first two, resistance and holding patterns, right? And when you think of holding patterns, you can think things like depression or overwhelming anxiety, those sort of persistent types of experiences of negative emotions. And the last one is what I'm calling mental blocks. So it's kind of like if you're flowing down the stream of your river of abundance, and not that you hit a hole and you go down like the resistance or the holding patterns, but instead you hit a rock, you hit an obstacle. And so this can be any of the above. It could be resistance and holding patterns, but it's also referring to things like limiting beliefs. It's also referring to things like negative reactions, and it's also referring to triggering life events. So it's some sort of obstacle that we hit, we have a reaction to it, and it stops us from flowing down that river. So limiting beliefs could be like that. It could be an obstacle, like you're trying to vibrate high, you're feeling good, but you keep coming back to these limiting beliefs that as soon as you get on this trajectory of doing good, they pull you back in. What movie was that? Some gangster movie. But was it Godfather? I think it was Godfather. So yeah, they pull you back in again because they're those underlying beliefs that you haven't addressed yet that are affecting your thoughts and your emotions and your actions. And like, for instance, if you don't really believe you deserve happiness, you're trying to get it, but you haven't addressed that limiting belief underneath, you're going to see things like self-sabotage. You're going to see things like you feel overwhelmed, underwhelmed when you actually achieve something, because nothing is ever going to be good enough. Those types of things that are underlying under the surface is really about this negative belief that you haven't done the conscious work to overcome yet. Another thing could be triggering life events. So let's say you're trying to manifest a job and you keep getting rejection after rejection, rejection. That starts to form this like mental block because you're focused on that reality instead of using that reality to grow and learn and become better, to become more resilient, if you will. So it's those things that we hit up against in life that instead of using them to overcome and to become better and to transform, they kind of stop us. And the way through that is to do the conscious work to overcome them. Again, I'm going over that in more detail on my video on Thursday, so be sure to subscribe to my channel. But that's really the third one is are those blocks, those obstacles that can get in your way. So we have resistance. It's the first mental block. Those negative emotions that we need to tune into, and it's really an opportunity to pivot to get back on track with what we're trying to manifest. We have those holding patterns when we get kind of in a cycle of resistance. Is just an easy way to think about that. When we're not really listening at all, instead we're digging ourselves deeper down. And the third one is those mental blocks, those obstacles that kind of get in our way that we have to use to transform. And unless you do the transformation work, the conscious work, they're going to keep pulling you back in again. Okay. Hi, Rod. Haven't seen you or talked to you in so long. That's like instant Miami comes up. So those are my three manifestation blocks that I want to be sure to share with you guys today. But I also want to give you a bonus one, a bonus block that a lot of us don't talk about because we're busy doing all the things. If we're trying to manifest love, we're like on all the sites, or we're like dating all the people. Or if we're trying to manifest a baby, we're, doing all the things, detoxing, all the things, and we're busy doing all these actions. But we really sometimes get into this block of manic forcing. So instead of letting go, surrendering, and trusting the process, we are forcing and not letting go and not detaching from the outcome. And that's really sending the signal to the universe that I don't trust you. So that's another block that we may have, is this forcing like manic attachment to the outcome and trying to control the outcome. And I want to give you some examples of manic forcing. So if you're attached to the outcome, if you find it hard to surrender to the universe, if you're obsessed with how and when your dream will come true, or if you're doing all the things to try to control the manifestation process because you don't trust the universe. Request to be in your live video. Oh, I don't think she did that on purpose. Hi, Beth. So if you think that you are in the stage of manic forcing, like you are just find it really hard to detach because you just want, like, I can't blame you. You want what you want and you really, really want it badly. And you just find it hard to let go and surrender because you feel like it's either taking forever, or if you let go, you feel uncomfortable, or you can't trust the world to give you what you want. I have something for you. It's completely free. And the reason I came up with this is because I get this question all the time. How do I detach from the outcome? How do I let go? How do I go with the flow? So I said, I'm going to make a guide about this because I get this question all the time. Of course, with my Dream Life Academy students, we dive deeper in this with my roadmap that kind of walks you through everything you need to know. But this specific question, I wanted to have like a free resource that I could give to people. So I made a Forcing to Flowing guide and workbook. It's completely free. You can go to, if you're on Instagram, go to the link in my description. and download it. It's Forcing to Flowing Guide and Workbook. If you're on YouTube watching this, you can go to my Instagram and get that, or I will put it in the description below. But what it is just a 3-step process. It's very easy. It's very practical. That's going to help you learn how to let go, detach from the outcome, and flow with your abundance. Because I know a lot of people have this question and feel like it's really, really hard. So, again, if you just joined us, I'm kind of wrapping up, but I want to go over in summary so you can still get some value. And I will post this on both platforms to save it. But essentially, today we're talking about the fact that manifestation is all about our mindset. And so, when we have mental blocks that can stop our manifestation from happening or slow the process down. So, I wanted you guys to be aware of what these are so you can work on them. So the first one is resistance, and that's any negative emotion that we feel. That is what we call resistance, and that's our inner spirit, our true selves telling us, "Hey, you veered off track with what you're trying to manifest. You have veered off track from what your true self really wants, either through your thoughts or your behaviors." And it's your opportunity to get back on track, because when we're feeling negative emotion, we're attracting more negative things into our lives, called negative creating. And so that resistance is that signal, hey, you need to get back on track, right? Okay, so that was the first one. The second one is holding patterns. It's when we get in the cycle of feeling that resistance, and not only is it that one time that we may feel it, or a couple of times during the week, it's like we're in a constant cycle of constantly feeling these negative emotions. So think depression or sadness, or overwhelming anxiety, or unhealed trauma. It's like these patterns of constantly being in these negative emotions, right? Those are the holding patterns that can stop your manifestation. The third one that I talked about are those blocks, those obstacles that get in our way. It could be resistance or holding patterns, but it's usually something deeper that stops you. It's either a limiting belief that keeps pulling you back in to do things like self-sabotage, or to doubt what you're manifesting will ever come true, limiting beliefs, or triggering life events. So when we're focused on these difficult situations and perceiving them in a negative way, instead of using them to help us transform and doing the conscious work to transform when these things show up, whether it's a limiting belief or if it's a triggering life event, right? Those can kind of stop us in our tracks when we're trying to manifest, unless we do the work to overcome them. Again, I have a video coming out about this on Thursday on exactly how to overcome any of these blocks if you're feeling any of them. And then the bonus one is that I shared is if you're forcing. So if you're not letting go and you're trying to control how your manifestation happens, you're trying to control the when and the how, and you're attached to the outcome. That's called what a lot of people call manic forcing. That is another mental block that you can have that's stopping your manifestation from coming. And I have a free guide on that called Forcing to Flowing. That is in my description as well, that I hope you guys can get if you feel like that's something that you're struggling with. So those are my tips that I want to give you on manifestation blocks. If you have any questions, you can write them on the comments of this video. You can write them now on either one of these, or you can, yes, letting go is very key for sure. And it's not always easy, but the guide that I give you, that was my goal, to kind of make it easy. So I hope you guys can check that out. But yeah, if you have questions, please DM me, message me, comment. I always get back to comments and questions, so feel free to write me, especially on Instagram. If you DM me, I'm over there a lot. Again, I'm going to save this video. Thank you guys so much for joining me on both platforms. And until next time, namaste.